What is up, Bucs fans? Tough break for the Buccaneers, losing to the Ravens 41-31, but bigger stories lie with injuries to both Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, and Tyke Smith in this loss. Much to get into, much to talk about, whether the right decisions were made. We'll get into all of that. Of course, your comments and thoughts as well. We'll get into all that right after the break.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Pirate Parlay.
Battle intercepted, picked off in the end zone. Bucs are going to beat the Chiefs. We're the champions of the world.
The sickest Tampa Bay Buccaneers podcast. It's going to be sick.
What is up, Bucs fans? Back here on the other side of the break. This is Pirate Parlay Podcast on the Sick Podcast Network. As always, I'm your host, JC Allen. Go ahead while you're here on YouTube. Make sure you're liking, subscribing, turning on the reminders. If you're on Twitter, thanks for joining us. Come on over to YouTube, like, subscribe, turn those reminders so you never miss a show. Here on the post-game show, brought to you by new sponsor, FanGo Tickets, straight out of Tampa Bay. They're your number one source for live events. Lots of fun stuff going on to them. We'll get into some cool things that we're doing with them later down the line. But let's just start off right at the beginning of the show here with the news. After the Bucs lost to the Ravens 41-31, the big story out of the game is obviously the injury to wide receiver Chris Godwin. Late in the game, seconds to go, just over a little bit over a minute to go. Chris Godwin makes a big catch. Converts a first down. It's about a minute, 4 seconds left. Catches the ball short middle, 21 yards, catches the first down, goes down injured on the play, down on the ground, not moving. Roquan Smith gets tied up over him. And early prognosis is, per Todd Bowles after the press conferences, it looks like a dislocated ankle for Chris Godwin. Obviously carted off with an air cast, so looked pretty severe. Just playing a quick Google, Dr. MD here. Typically, a dislocated ankle depends on the severity. Can typically take up to 6 to 12 weeks for rehabilitation, which would effectively likely end Chris Godwin's season for the year. Looked pretty severe, so trend on that higher mark of 12 weeks, which would be 3 months before he can even return to pre-injury activities. So it's a tough loss. Chris was knowing Chris as a person and the adversity he's gone through this season, obviously in the offseason, losing his father, working his way back from a torn ACL, that's really hampered his play over the last 2 years, just getting back to normal. For him to suffer this injury, it's heartbreaking. You never want to see it to a guy, especially like Chris. He was our good guy recipient. Always, for his availability with the media, always willing to give a quote, always willing to talk. And your heart goes out for him. Your heart goes out to his family. Knowing how hard he worked to get back to this point, seeing what he was doing on the field coming into this this weekend, number one in receptions, tied for number one in touchdowns, number one in first downs, number one in yards after catch, number third in total yards, and then to see his season just kind of go up in smoke like that towards the end of the game. Really, I'm not going to say bullshit arrested his starters. You're down 10 points. Crazier things have happened in NFL games. You're marching down the field. You just you're playing to win that game. Those guys are competitors. They want to be in there. They want to try to come back and figure out. You're not down by 30 points at that point where you pull the starters. I completely understand that. Hindsight's 2020. Yeah, maybe they should have. But once you started putting the points and getting closer and closer, there's been crazier things that have happened in NFL games before. But it doesn't make this thing any less worse. It doesn't hurt any less worse. If you're a Bucs fan, someone who knows Chris, it doesn't. It's a terrible situation all around. Hearts go out to Chris. and his family. Prayers go out to Chris and his family. Was really in line to cash in and potentially have a big long-term deal coming his way, whether through the Bucs or from another organization. If the Bucs decided to move on, I don't think they would have. I thought that, he was probably, as Tobias asked, do you think Chris was going to stay in Tampa? I do think Chris was going to stay in Tampa. I think they would have found a way to keep him. I know he wants to be here. He's very grounded here. He's rooted here. I think they'll probably bring him back now. It makes things a little, it's I don't want to talk financial terms and stuff like that with an injury and trying to rehab and all that stuff. But I think, I think he'll be back here. But it wasn't just Godwin. Evans dealing with a hamstring injury, a nagging hamstring injury. Coming into this game, again, these are competitors. I see a bunch of get Bowles out of here, fire Bowles. Bowles needs to go. Like, you're down 10 points to the Ravens. You just won an onside kick. You're marching down the field. Now you're down 3 points. Crazier things have happened. I think that all across the board in the loss, there were bad plays on defense, missed tackles, missed assignments on offense, just bad decision-making from Baker, drops, end zone drops, Mike with one, obviously, before he got hurt, and we'll get into that in a minute, but Jalen McMillan had one. There was other ones as well. Like, there was multiple different times where it's not just, doesn't come just down to the coaches coaching. And yeah, I think they got out coached, and I think there was definitely things that they could have done better, but I think the players didn't execute properly as well. I see Fox is getting upset in here. He says no testicle fortitude on offense. They went for it on fourth down early in the game. I just think the Ravens are one of the best teams in the NFL, and they have been over the last 2 years. They were the number 1 seed in the AFC last year. They, didn't really lose much, added some. A guy like Derrick Henry, who the Bucs effectively shut down other than those 2 big runs. And yeah, I mean, those 2 big runs are big, the 81 and 39. But before that, he had 44 yards, other than those 2 big runs. So yeah, that was a big part of it. But, back to what I was talking about as well, you're down Godwin now for probably the season, and Evans, who re-aggravated that hamstring that was bugging him all week. He ended up having no injury designation coming into this week, into this game, off the injury report. Still bothering him, re-aggravates it. You could tell he was in a lot of pain, quickly went to the locker room, quickly was ruled out. And now you're down Chris Godwin, heading into a really pivotal matchup against the Falcons that, these are situations where, if you lose this game, that NFC South crown looks a little bit tougher. You're relying on Sterling Shepard and Jalen McMillan and Trey Palmer to step up, and they'll likely get Raheem Jarrett back this week, but it's tough on a short week too, because they played Monday Night Football, so it's a short week. They only have a few days to prepare. It's and then Tyke Smith, a lot of people have already forgotten about that. He's been playing as a defensive rookie of the year type level candidate. He goes out with concussion, some friendly fire from KJ Britt. Both guys were trying to make a tackle. It's tough all the way around. Encouraging, the Bucs were able to make a late comeback, just a little too late, ran out of time. I think that was encouraging. There's no quit. Resiliency is a word that has been thrown around for this group. And you could see that, they kept fighting all the way to the end. Even after Chris went down, still kept fighting until they couldn't anymore. But in the end, it wasn't enough. But again, close game after everything's all said and done. 41-31. You showed you could hang, I guess, when everything came down to it. Box score. Second quarter continues to be a plague. Baker with 2 interceptions. Just a bad throw, bad read. when he had Bucky Irving wide open on that one in the end zone that Marlon Humphreys picked up. Another one just kind of, under threw the ball. Humphreys came down. They lost Humphreys. Ravens lost Humphreys at the end of the day, but just a difficult situation all the way around for the Buccaneers. So much to be said. Hindsight 2020, should they have taken the guys out? Maybe. If, I might agree with that a little bit if they didn't start to mount that comeback, but they decided they want to go. The guys wanted to go. Baker just talked about it. Baker talked about how, the players wanted to be in the game in the end, even if the odds were long to pull off a comeback. What's Bulls going to say? No, no, sit down. We don't want to risk you guys getting. It's football. This stuff happens. Injuries happen in football, no matter how devastating they are. Every team suffers them. Every team suffers injuries. The Bucs have had their fair share at the beginning of the season. Don't get me wrong, but everybody suffers injuries. And the Bucs just, got hit doubly hard at one position, which seems to be their MO. Cornerback, double hit. Defensive tackle, Kalijah Cansey's already out. Vita Vea is out. Cornerback, you lose Jamel Dean. Bryce Huff is out. Hall's out for the year already. Safety, it just kind of compiles at certain positions for the Buccaneers. It's hard to argue that the Bucs starters shouldn't have been in the game. Special again, when they wanted to be out there, they wanted to go out there, they wanted to be out there, and they wanted to try to mount a comeback. It's going to be tough to overcome a loss like Chris Godwin. Again, one of the top receivers in the NFL, making a case for an All-Pro this season, making a case to be one of the highest guys in the league. But they've got guys who are going to have to step up. Next man up mentality. They did it all season already. They've had guys step up and play big roles and help them win games. And now they're just in that position again, where guys are going to have to step up. Tobias says, heartbroken JC. I don't know how we can overcome the loss of both of our top wide receivers against Falcons. And of course, Godwin may be season ending. It's going to be tough, but they're going to have guys step up. Jalen McMillan, Sterling Shepard, Trey Palmer. I'm sure Ryan Miller probably comes up to the active roster. He had some nice plays. Raheem Jarrett's going to be back. They'll have those guys, and they're going to have to step up. Do I think they trade for a wide receiver? Andres G asks me. I don't think so. DeAndre Hopkins, I don't think that's an option. Maybe they sign someone. Maybe they sign a veteran off someone's practice squad or something like that to kind of give them. But they just did sign Marcus Callaway as well. But no one's going to replace Chris Godwin. No one's going to replace what Chris Godwin can do. So you got to figure out how to use a variety of guys to fill that role. The early thought is, Trey Palmer played a little bit there last year. Maybe Jalen McMillan slides in there. That's a role. Lucas asks, how good will McMillan be in Chris's spot? We'll kind of see how that plays. We'll see how that plays out. I think McMillan has a lot of talent. I think he's showcased a lot of talent throughout the preseason. Hasn't really kind of developed in games yet. He had some good looks. He's had some mistakes, rookie mistakes. But now it's time to grow up. You're going to be thrust into a role, thrust into a position that, if Godwin wasn't looking like he was, maybe the Bucs let him walk. And now that's his role to fill. So, he's got to grow up. He's got to step into this role. And we'll see how he progresses. They got Sterling Shepard who can play a little bit inside, outside. They got some versatile guys, which I think will help them. Guys who have experience playing inside and outside. So they'll be able to keep kind of guys guessing, but no one's going to give you what Chris Godwin gave you. I hate to, foreshadowed in all of this. Cade Otton had a hell of a game. First 100 career game of his career, 8 receptions, new career high for him there as well. Took some really tough hits, made some really nice catches. I thought he had a really strong game. But everyone's going to be talking about the loss of Chris Godwin and loss of Mike Evans. Rachaad White continues to impress as a receiver. 2 touchdowns to the air, 71 yards on 6 catches, 6 targets. Add another 40 on the ground. Most productive running back out of the backfield. for the Buccaneers. But yeah, it was tough all the way around from the defense. I can't name one defensive player that had a strong game. Probably Jordan Whitehead's worst game as a pro. Winfield had multiple blown assignments. Zion McCollum got faked out on a head move that brought him outside on Bateman's 49-yard touchdown. Diaby had 2 sacks on the day. Got credited with that Baker's with the fumble that Lamar recovered. Antoine got one. I thought that was more of a split one with Levante. Levante looked old. He looked good. He had the pass breakup. That would have been a clear touchdown to Mark Andrews. They have no answer for anything over the middle of the field. Continues to plague them. Middle of the field. And just tackling, like rookie mistake, JV mistake tackling issues. They've got to get better at it. And I get you're limited, right? A little bit by what you can do with KJ Britt's limited athleticism and Levante obviously getting older. I thought KJ Britt played underratedly well in run defense up the middle. Didn't really let too much up. Lamar Jackson had a couple of those design, play fake screens that he ran, or play fake RPOs that he ran up the middle. Stopping, like I said, stopping Derrick Henry outside of that. He finished with 169, so stopping Derrick Henry seems funny to say, but outside of that 81-yard that he bounced outside and that 39-yard run that he bounced outside, he finished with 160. Let's just do math because I can't do math in my head, so bear with me, guys, here. He finished with 169 minus 81 minus 39. They held him to 49 yards running pretty much in the interior. That's pretty dang good. But again, his limitations as a linebacker in coverage, his limitations not playing downhill, clearly there. They're missing Servassier Dennis a lot. That's for sure. Let me get into some of these comments. Then we'll keep on going with the game. Whatever you guys want to talk about, steer the conversation. We'll get into whatever you guys want to talk about there. Any questions you have? Before we get into the comments, I do want to give one of our sponsors a shout out over at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers Cruise. Guys, this is going to be a great time. Definitely want to check this out from March 7th to the 10th, going down to Key West and Bimini, Bahamas out of Fort Lauderdale. So many Bucs players are going to be on this. Jordan Whitehead, Brad Johnson, Trey Palmer, Dexter Jackson, Mike Allstott, Kalijah Cansey, Luke Gedeke, Graham Barton, Yaya Diaby, Jamel Dean. So many more are going to be on. Derek Brooks, a couple of surprise guests that they haven't named yet, and so much more are going to be on this cruise. It's such an awesome time. So many different events, a sail away party, trivia contest, bingo, cocktail parties, player panels, volleyball competition between the players, theme parties that keeps the fun going all night, all cruise long. So much fun. Get to talk and speak with your favorite NFL players of present and past, where you're not rushed through like an autograph line. You actually get to know them as people, not just a name and number on their jersey. It's an awesome opportunity that you guys are definitely going to check out to celebrate with your team, create lasting memories with Bucs fans from all over the country, and of course your favorite Bucs players. Time to buy tickets ends December 11th. So if you're looking for a last-minute gift for your husband, for your wife, for your kids, check out the Bucs Cruise over at TampaBayBucsCruise.com. All of the information is going to be down in the bio. So check that out. Awesome stuff. Let's get into some of these comments here. Eric says, all these Captain Hindsights calling for Coach Bull's jobs make me sick and should be ashamed of themselves. That means you, Joe McCoy, Stephen Shea, and others. How dare you? No class. It's just become a common thread for Bucs fans to call for Bull's job almost every year. After every bad game, go back to last week's game. They were calling for Bull's head. How did that turn out? It's just something that Bucs fans continuously do. When the team loses or there's a complication on clock management or this or that, it's immediately fire Bulls. Again, I don't blame him for keeping the guys in. The guys certainly don't blame him. Chris certainly doesn't blame him for keeping him in. Bulls was asked if he should protect his players. Even if they want to play, should he protect them? And it's a 10-point game. They had just recovered an onside kick. They were marching down the field. When Chris caught that 21-yard pass, let me just look it up so I have the accurate information. But when Chris caught that 21-yard pass before he was injured, they had moved the ball nearly into they're at the 39-yard line, moving with a minute 4 left. Yeah, very tough uphill, right? You're probably not going to win this game. But you never stop fighting. You never stop quitting. That's what resiliency is. And that's what this Bucs team has prided themselves throughout the first couple weeks of the season, winning different ways, losing different ways, being able to bounce back. I don't blame Bowles. I don't blame the players. We'll see. Liam says, would Liam be a head coach next year of the Bucs? Lucas asked that. Will Liam come and be the head coach next year of the Bucs? I don't think so. He might get sniffs, but I think right now he's more of the Slowick, the Johnsons, and probably won't. Ben Johnson probably wants to stay another year, improve his. He's really thankful for the opportunity there. I think he's really enjoying it here, working with the guys. I mean, you never know when you're going to get head coaching jobs. So if they come up, you got to take them. I don't think he'll be the Bucs head coach. I think he'll be back here. My gut says he'll be back here. But, if he continues to string along impressive performances, then, yeah, I mean, he might be gone. Not as the Bucs, but maybe as another team. Eric Scott says, we're the Crew, beat Atlanta. I'll be there next week to support my team and have a blast for Creamsicle Week. Take the South. They still have an opportunity, guys. It's not like this, the Falcons have been otherworldly. They're playing at home on Matt Ryan night, and the Bucs took them to overtime and missed face mask call. A couple bad plays by the Bucs. That offense is pretty good. It's not like it's terrible. I already talked about how McMillan will do in Chris's spot. We'll have to see. Eric says this is not a time to point fingers. It's tragic, but we will pull through. He says, my first sick podcast listen ever. How'd I know this? How'd I not know this existed, JC? Always been my favorite, and boy, am I sick. Awesome, Eric. Super appreciative of you popping by. Definitely check out the older podcasts. I had a lot of players on here, coaches, Liam Cohen, Todd Bowles, a bunch of stuff on there. Not all of it will be relevant, but still good stuff, good information about how they prepare for game weeks and kind of get to know them a little bit more as people, not just players, which is awesome. Smitty says, absolutely heartbreaking, unbelievable. It's tough to process, right? It is, because Chris Godwin is such he's like the blue collar guy, you root for. He just puts his head down. He works hard. He's humble. He's always, it's tough. It's tough that it was him that suffered this injury. It's tough of anyone, but especially him, who's worked so hard to come back and has had such an amazing start to the season, to now probably have his season over. It's tough. It's heartbreaking for sure. Eric says, JC always straight facts, telling it how it is. No fluff. Love it. Time to step up. Tobias asks, do you think we're going to see more Otten and Rachaad White as a receiving option against Atlanta? Maybe even more 21 personnel. Yeah, I think that's a great idea. Otten has continuously gotten better in all phases of his game. Again, just went over 100 yards, 9 catches, career highs for him. I think getting him involved more is going to be crucial. I think getting Rachaad White more out of the backfield is going to be crucial. Maybe we'll see him lined up as a wide receiver, see what he can do there. He's definitely better with a little space to get a full head of steam going. But, they're going to have to try different things. Maybe Bucky Irvin goes out there. Definitely more pony 21 personnel. It's been very successful for the Bucs so far. And guys are going to have to step up. Like I've been saying, guys have to step up. Shepard's got to step up. Palmer's got to step up. McMillan certainly has to step up. If Jarrett gets, activated off IR, he's got to step up. They all have to rise to the level. And hopefully it's a situation where, it's unlikely Evans plays against the Falcons. Let's just put it that. If he plays, we'll be surprised. It's unlikely he plays. You give him that week of rest, and maybe he's good to go against the Kansas City Chiefs in Kansas City. This is that gauntlet stretch, and now they're down some of their top players on both sides. Again, Tyke Smith is down too, and Izzy can step in, but Tyke has been playing at a defensive rookie of the year level. I would say as almost a all-pro level. Looking at the numbers and what he's done at the nickel spot, there's not many who've been done better than him. Brian Branch is now a safety. He's not a nickel anymore. He's moved into that safety spot. And yeah, he's sure he'll play some nickel, and they might quantify him as a nickel in some situations in voting purposes, but he's been a safety. And he's been, Tyke Smith has been incredible. Eric says, lost some momentum when Mike dropped that tutty, got hurt, and when the Godwin tutty was called back for that BS work. That was terrible. That was terrible. The holding calls on both sides. The Ravens got some bad calls too. And I forget who it was. One of the, it might have been Joe Buck. He was like, we saw this show last week, you know? Yeah, they definitely lost a lot of momentum. And it hurt. It hurt. You know, this game is such a game of momentum. And I brought that up on the podcast prior to the game. You know, can they carry that momentum of the running game? Can they carry that momentum of the win against the Saints into this game? Against a very difficult opponent. And again, guys, this was an opponent that you looked at the team, you looked at the schedule, regardless of how you felt in the season, you looked at the schedule and you're like, that might be a loss. Ravens team is pretty dang good. That could be a loss for the Bucs. So like the fact that they lost shouldn't be super surprising. The way they lost, you know, getting out to a hot start, giving you that hope, right? And then not scoring again until the fourth quarter, letting up 6 consecutive scores to the Ravens. But that's what the Ravens do. That's what the Ravens do. They move the ball. They're averaging 29 points a game. I thought there were opportunities for them to attack the passing, you know, the pass defense a little bit more. But some bad decisions by Baker. 2 interceptions. Almost had another one. You know, all in all, the Bucs still ran for 125 yards. Of course, it's not 277, not the 244 Baltimore ran for, but still, you know, they brought that momentum in the running game, and they still were able to capitalize on stuff. Eric, I will not be there for the creamsicle game. Unfortunately, my daughter has a cheer competition at Family First. You guys know how it is. I will still be at the cheer competition because those things are hours long for like 2.5 minutes of watching my daughter cheer. I'll be there with my iPad. I'll be there with my phone. I'll be live tweeting. I'll be getting everything out to you guys as always. So I'll definitely be plugged in. Just won't be at creamsicle game. I missed the creamsicle game last year too. So 2 in a row. Stinks. Tobias says, what do you think about Whitehead? He had some bad. Oh, Whitehead struggled. He had some struggles. This was a bad game for Whitehead. Bad game for everyone over the middle of the field. How can we close the middle of the field against Atlanta? I don't know. They're going to have to do something, though, because it was not good. It was not a good showing. You know, you're limited there, too. You know, Whitehead had a bad game. Winfield didn't have a great game either. Yeah, he got the sack early, but there was a lot of miscommunication and a lot of mistakes throughout that game, especially over the middle of the field, leaving Mark Andrews wide open, Isaiah Likely wide open, multiple other defenders wide open in the middle of the field. 2 touchdowns came from just being wide open in the middle of the field, you know, and I get it. You have a guy like KJ Britt who's limited, but if that's the case, you know, you got to figure something else out. Maybe you have Tavier Thomas going at nickelback and you play Christian Izzian, who doesn't really have the size, but maybe he's playing more of that star linebacker role that Smith could play. I don't know. You got to figure it out, though. But once that starts happening, you got to make adjustments, and it just kept happening all game long. And then the Bucs finally started to make some stops at the end of the game, but too little, too late. The clock is ticking. You know, that missed field goal loomed large. You know, that was a big miss on that field goal. Because now you're talking about them being only down 7, marching down the field to try to score the game-tying touchdown. You lose Chris Godwin. Everyone's talking about the injury, but no one's saying, "Oh, he should have rested his starters." Oh, that doesn't happen. Brandon says tonight's injuries will keep Cohen another year. Christopher Cole says, "Now what? We're going to see what this team is made of." Exactly. It's next man up mentality, and it's been that way since day one. Week 1, Luke Gedeke goes down. Week 1, Antoine Winfield Jr. goes down. Week 1, no Kalijah Kancey. People got to step up. You know, Jamel Dean goes down. He's out for 4 weeks. I thought Tyreek Funderburk had some tough plays, but I thought he had some really good plays too. solid in run defense. Picked up a key block that allowed, forget who, I think it was Yaya Diaby to go free to make a tackle on Derrick Henry for a loss of 1. Like, thought he had some good plays, bad plays. He's going to learn as he goes. And remember last year, too, this is the same thing we said. Wow, there are a lot of mistakes by these young guys, but Foles isn't afraid to play the young guys because as the season goes, they grow, they get better. And now you can trust them. And in year 2, now you can trust them even more. We're seeing that with a lot of guys. Zay McCollum, perfect example. Outside of that bad play, I thought he had a pretty good day. Carried guys on his back to the end zone. Carried guys. It got marked down, but hell of a play by him. Drive by him. Bryce says Bowles just needs a DC or defensive consultant. Something to help his old school ways adapt to the new school league. I think once Bowles got down, it changes your game plan. It's difficult, because you need to get pressure on these guys, but you also need to smart pressures, I like to call it. Because if not, Lamar can beat you. And Lamar really didn't beat them too badly with his legs. 52 yards, but his longest run was 17 yards. He wasn't running all over you guys. I think they did a pretty good job of containing Lamar Jackson. They got a couple sacks on him, a couple of close sacks on him. He made some plays rolling out, that you got to get there a little quicker, but it is what it is. While there's a lot of bad to take away from this game, there's still some good too. There's still some good to look at this game and say, okay, again, everything about this game is going to be overshadowed by Godwin's injury. It's a loss, and you lost Godwin. It's not. No one's going to be talking about some of the good things that they've done. No one's going to be talking about some of the good plays Cohen called early in the game and then late in the game to put them in situations where they could, dive back into this and get back into this game. Remember, it was 34-10 at the end of the third quarter. 34-10 at the end of the third quarter. The game ended 41-31. Talking about 24 points they scored in a quarter, pretty much. Again, too little, too late, but still, not all bad. Not all bad. Not all bad. I just hope someday find someone that will hold me like the Ravens hold. Yeah, they got away with some stuff. They got some bad calls. A little bit of both. I thought, man, if Baker didn't grab that guy's face mask, that stiff arm would have been probably a candidate for angry runs. Always good to see Baker getting out there and being aggressive. I forget who called it. He's like, who called it? He's Liam Cohen called this to him. Said this about him the other day. He's an offensive lineman in a quarterback's body. He's just out there mauling people. King Buck says we need Dennis back ASAP. Season is still young. We can definitely bounce back. Guys, they're 4-3 on the season. 4-3 on the season. They've still got 3 tough games. But again, Mahomes has looked normal. He hasn't looked like Mahomes. Yeah, they're undefeated. The Falcons just came off a tough loss to Seattle. Seattle hasn't looked great. Seattle's 4-3, but they've had some tough losses. You're still tied for number 1 in the NFC South. Falcons have the tiebreaker, obviously, with the win over you, but you're still tied. The 49ers just lost Brandon Ayuk, and I don't know what they're doing this season. They're 3-4. It's not like that team is absolutely unbeatable. You still come out of here. You come out of here with 1 more win, preferably against the Falcons. 2 losses. You're 5-5 going into the bye week. And you've got a very, very manageable schedule. Very manageable schedule coming out. You've got the 2-5 Raiders. You've got the 2-5 Giants. You've got the, what are they? 1-5? 1-6 Panthers twice. You got the Saints that are 2-5. And you got the Chargers, who just lost again, who are 3-3. And you got the Cowboys. We know what the Cowboys are. Cowboys are 3-3 on a bye, and they have looked terrible. So again, if they can win one more game out of this next 3 games, preferably again Atlanta next week, which will be an uphill battle without their stars at wide receiver, it's going to just need a really strong game plan. Then I think they'll be good. While I've got a bunch of you guys in here, I want to give a shout out to my newest sponsor. Again, we mentioned them at the top. The Sick Podcast post-game show is brought to you by FanGo Tickets. They're locally owned in St. Pete. So much cool stuff about this site is happening, guys. Not only do they have Bucs tickets, they have concert tickets, they have Rays tickets, but they're also in partnership right now with different places, different bars and different like things around Tampa Bay. So one of their partners is Top Shelf. What you can do is you can get your Lightning tickets, you can get your garage pass there, and you can get a reservation for Top Shelf with a combo for like a burger and a beer for like $15. So you get there before the game. Everything's already set up, all in one-stop shop. You don't have to go to a bunch of different places. You get your reservation to pregame a little bit. You get a nice little combo. You get a nice little deal on the garage and nice deal on the tickets. And of course, they're locally owned in Tampa Bay, so it's awesome there. They're working on more things for hotels and stuff like that. But I'm super excited to announce that if you guys are here, tweet will go out later tonight or maybe tomorrow. With this partnership, we are giving away a pair of tickets to next week's creamsicle game against the Atlanta Falcons. So that's going to be awesome. We'll get all the information out. It's going to be simple. Go on X, make sure you're liking, make sure you're following myself, make sure you're following FanGo Tickets, like, retweet, and share one of your favorite Bucs memories. We'll pick a winner on Friday's show live at 7 p.m. We'll be live on Pirate Parlay podcast on our preview of the Atlanta Falcons. We'll pick a winner on the show, let them know who it is, and then we'll tweet it out after the show. But we'll announce it live. So that's going to be coming at you very shortly. If not tonight, a little bit later tonight, probably tomorrow, first thing tomorrow morning. We'll put that tweet up. Contest will run through probably about Friday midday. And we'll pick a winner to get 2 tickets to the Atlanta Falcons creamsicle game at home in Tampa Bay this upcoming Sunday. So super excited about that. So much more cool stuff coming your way from them. They've got a lot of awesome things going on their website. Check them out. No fees. Fees are rolled in. They literally show you the taxes that they have to pay on the tickets and then what they're getting. And most of the time it's like $5. They're making $5 off the sale. It's literally people selling their tickets, like any of these game time tick picks. It's a really cool app. It's a really cool website. Definitely check FanGo Tickets out. Check them out on Twitter, like them, follow them, because we're going to be doing some more giveaways throughout the season. So check out FanGo. Get into these couple more comments, and then we'll wrap this up here in a minute. Stinky Toot says refs didn't throw 2 interceptions, so forced Todd to not go for it on 4th and goal or kick a 55-yarder into the win. Not a ref loss. No, definitely not a ref loss, but there were some questionable flags thrown around. Godwin, it looks a lot different, right? There weren't many plays with the Ravens where it could have went one way. That hold on Wirfs, you're talking about 3-point game now. Again, 55-yarder, doinks off the uprights. It's not like that's out of his range, right? He puts a little more English on it to the left. You're talking about a 7-point deficit at the end of the game. There were some different situations there where the refs kind of maybe impacted the game a little bit. I don't say they impacted it totally because I think the complete disappearance of the Bucs in that second quarter into the third quarter is more, especially the defense, is more responsible for their loss than anything the refs did. Stinky Toots says, Stinky Toots, manageable schedule to do what though? Lose to the Lions 50-17 without a wide receiver 2 and half the defense shuffling injured in the wild card divisional round. I mean, you never know kind of how things are going to go out. You get your ticket to the dance. We've seen crazier things happen. We've seen the New York Giants come in as a 6th seed and upset the undefeated New England Patriots in the Super Bowl. We've seen crazier things happen. And that's, again, why I don't think it was necessarily terrible for the Bucs to keep their guys. And we've seen crazy things happen at end of game situations where we're like, how did they just win that game? You know, like, you're down 10 points. You're moving the ball downfield. I get it. It's a football injury. Those guys want to be out there. You know, you can say Todd Bowles should have taken them out. Again, that's something that, you know, we're going to argue about. You're going to argue about. People are going to argue about for the next week. It is what it is. Eric says, thought we had the 2020 Super Bowl Bulls defensive scheme earlier there tonight, and then we collapsed. KC never had a King Henry, though, and we had Brady, but still, yeah, it looked good. At the beginning, you're like, whoa, here they come. 4 straight games with an opening drive touchdown. What are we doing here? And then, yeah, you know, the defense kind of collapsed, and Baker made some turnovers, and couldn't really get anything going. They fell into a lull. Momentum, again, I forget who mentioned it earlier. Momentum so key, and after, you know, that Mike touchdown drop and the Chris, the holding call, they lost the momentum. Ravens picked it up and going. And the Ravens are a really good team, too. Like, it's not like they're some schmucks that the Bucs just lost to. They're Super Bowl contenders. So, yeah, again, like I said, 1 win, preferably next week against Atlanta. I think you head into bye pretty good. But again, I feel like the 49ers right now are a beatable team. Losing Godwin hurts, but I think you can replace him in the aggregate. Not replace him, but in the aggregate with the guys you have, especially if Mike can come back sooner rather than later. I think they'll be fine. Before we get out of here, I want to give a shout out to my final sponsor, Mosley Heating and Air. These guys are awesome, especially if you're in Florida. Definitely check them out. Because when Florida heat hits you hard and we're back into normal heat now, again, with the 80s back in we had a nice little cold front. It was beautiful, but it's starting to heat up a little bit more here until it gets cold again. But when the Florida heat hits you hard, trust Mosley Heating and Air to keep you cool and comfortable. With over 25 years of experience, their family-owned business knows what it takes to keep your home's HVAC system running smoothly. Need to repair a new system, a maintenance plan, they got you covered. Call Mosley Heating and Air at 813-230-3742 or visit mosleyheatingandair.com. Mosley Heating and Air, where comfort meets reliability. Check them out if you guys are local to Tampa. They do great work. Come highly recommended. And you know, fair pricing as well too, especially now. Again, it's still a little hot, but if you need maintenance done or anything like that, definitely check them out. They will be they'll be more than happy to add you to their maintenance plan and things they got going over there. So check them out over at Mosley Heating and Air. I picked the Ravens to win this game. I thought I'd be close. I had 31-28, 41-31, still pretty close to me. If you ask me, Ravens were a really good team, and they came out with a win. And the Bucs, again, resiliency is something I asked all these players last week and coaches last week. You know, what does it mean? You guys have won different ways. You've lost different ways. You've overcome injuries. You know, resiliency. Resilient. This is a group that can move on quickly, that can bounce back quickly. They're not going to let one thing snowball into a million things. They're going to mourn Chris Godwin. They're going to take this loss tough because if you look at it, if they played the way they did in the first quarter, in the second and third quarter, they had a chance to be the Ravens. And at the end of the game, they still kind of had a chance, not as much, but a chance to get back in and make it competitive. And they didn't execute fully all the way. But I think they'll learn a lot from this game. I think the players on this team are going to step up. They're going to have to. They're going to be ready to step up. I think Liam Cohen has showed enough offensive ingenuity that he can put different guys in positions to make plays. Again, no one's Chris Godwin. Not saying you're replacing Chris Godwin. For Christ's sake, I call him third and Godwin whenever he converts because it's so damn often. But they'll have to figure it out. They're gonna have to figure it out. Everyone's gonna have to step up. Tough loss for the Bucs. Tough loss for the players. Godwin, Evans, Tyke Smith. But this Bucs team again is resilient. They'll find a way to bounce back. And they have to because they have a divisional game against Atlanta on a short week coming up this Sunday. So we'll be back later this week We'll kind of talk about this game a little bit more in depth once we have like PFF grades and once we have, a little bit more information on injuries and all that stuff. Maybe I'm trying to get a player on too, although I don't know if anyone's going to want to come on after that loss. And then we'll be back Friday again. We'll be announcing the giveaway for the 2 tickets to the Atlanta Falcons Creamsicle game this Sunday, probably tomorrow morning. And then we'll announce it live on Friday's show at 7:00 when we bring in a Falcons reporter, go behind enemy lines, kind of learn what these Falcons team has been up for the last 2 weeks. Not too much, but we'll kind of get into that and everything about the Falcons in this short little rematch revenge game for the Buccaneers at home. We'll see if they can break the curse in the Creamsicle. But that's going to do it for me. I appreciate everyone tuning in. Appreciate all the comments, all the love. Guys, if you're here on YouTube, like, subscribe, turn on notifications. If you're on Twitter, appreciate you. Pop over to YouTube. Even if you're going to watch on Twitter most of the time, like, subscribe, turn on notifications. Helps me get in front of more Bucs fans, in front of the algorithm. If you're new to the pod, check out some of the older episodes. I've got like Liam Cohen on talking about his philosophy. I've got Tyke Smith, Devin Culp, a whole bunch of different guys on this from this Bucs team going back to last year. Learn a little bit more about them as people. Todd Bowles is on there as well. Jason Light is on there as well. So a whole plethora of great stuff. We're going to get some more players on as the season goes on. And yeah, that's going to do it for me here at the Sick Podcast Network. This is Pirate Parlay. I'm your host, JC Allen. Stay tuned to everything over at Bucs Game Day. We're cooking up content over there. Of course, my Twitter handle, our X handle, because we just call it X nowadays, at JC Allen NFL for your latest in Bucs news. That's going to do it for me. I'm out of here. Peace out, guys. Appreciate y'all. Have a good night. Rest well. Things will get better. Prayers up to Godwin. Out. Peace.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Pirate Parlay on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.